Hi, everyone, and welcome to Author of Your Own Stories Inspirational Talk. Today's guest is Carolin Hauser-Carson. Carolin, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we were talking offline so much, and you've done so much, and you're currently doing so much in the world. I'm going to read what I know of as kind of a quick bio for you, just to give people a glimpse of what you do and who you are. And I know you're multidimensional, as we all are. But you're a German-trained naturopathic doctor, a humanistic psychotherapist, a family constellations facilitator, the author of the book Blossom, Your 7-Step Journey to Healing Childhood Sexual Abuse and Creating Your Dream Life. You're also an internationally recognized speaker and teacher on subjects such as spirituality, emotional eating, women's empowerment. Gosh, you've done so much. And I know I'm just scratching the surface on what it is you do and who you are. Can you fill in the blanks and let everybody else know kind of a little bit more about your journey?
Yeah, so I wasn't born thinking, I was going to be a trauma healer or a healer. Although when I was little, I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to help children. So I actually had bulimia and anorexia from 10 till in my early 20s. And nothing seemed to help. And I really, really wanted to get better. And then in my early 20s, I had what I call it my toilet wake up moment, because I was in a toilet and I had just eaten a bunch of food and was using a toothbrush to try to get the food to come out. And the toothbrush got stuck in my throat and I couldn't breathe for a moment. And
wow.
And in that moment, the only thing I could hear was my mom's voice saying, I told you so, because she kept saying, you're going to end like Mama Cass, who's choked on food and died. And so I'm like, oh my God, let that not be true. And I really just wanted to have children and I wanted to have a normal life and get married and so forth. And that seemed very out of reach at that point. So anyways, obviously I didn't die. The toothbrush dislodged and I could breathe again. And, but it really jolted me into like, I can't go down this road anymore. I really need to change something. And with that, I somehow had an opening to listening to my mother again, which we were kind of estranged at that time. And she invited me to go to a family constellations workshop. And I did go. And within 6 months, the eating disorders just left, literally. I was just like, they were just gone, and it was a big miracle. And so when that happened, I didn't really know what to do with my life. I was waiting tables and bartending. And I was sharing the story with one of my customers at the time. And he said, oh my God, if you've been able to do this, you have to make this your life's mission. And so then I spent my 20s learning about constellations and learning about healing. And so one thing led to another. And then I came from Germany to the United States, also very miraculously, just followed my heart and had my first child. And then with her turning 3, it triggered memories of early sexual abuse. So I actually never knew why I had the eating disorders until I was 30. And then started putting things together and then wrote my first book because I had all this training, in healing and had to help myself again. It was really a surprise to me. Well, not really a surprise, but it was kind of shocking because I had already done so much work on myself. And and so that one led to another. And then I started with having my daughter. I really started looking at what can I do from home to be home with her. And I didn't know what entrepreneurialism was, from Germany. It's not something that we do there. I was just somebody who never fit in, and I could never figure out how to make money, really, and I would try these odd jobs, but it just wouldn't work. And so she was really my inspiration to start learning about online marketing. And yeah.
That's an awesome story. I mean, talk about an aha moment, a couple of them that you had throughout life which I'm sure a lot of the listeners can resonate with. A lot of the people that are on this author of your own story path, right? They're they know that there's something else out there for them and they know they want more. Many of them are coaches. Many of them, have stepped a little bit, kind of the pinky toe is what I think of, the big toe just over the line or into the water. What was the big push for you to say, you know what, this is the jump I'm making and I'm all in?
Yeah. I mean, I was all in. I just wasn't making money
that,
because
and that happens to a lot of us, right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
just couldn't, I could not figure out how to market myself and make money. And so I did write the book. I committed to doing that, and I did a launch with it. And I made I made like $3,000-4,000, but it took like 12 months to make that money.
A common
So
story with authors, by the way.
not sustainable, right? And then when my breakthrough really came was I had another breakthrough moment 5 years ago where I had my second child and had gone through a lot of stress financially and in my relationship. So we're going through bankruptcy and divorce, and I had developed chronic fatigue and burnout and had a complete physical breakdown. And the blessing in that was that I was literally catapulted out of my body, and a voice said, if you don't start making decisions based on what's right for you, or if you start making decisions based on what's right for you, your life is going to change dramatically and completely. And so coming back into my body, I was like, okay, I got to make some changes. And so it led me to leaving my marriage. And, being from Germany, I had no family support here, like, local support. I had no credibility because I'm from Germany. I had no savings because I was just going through bankruptcy.
Wow.
And there was no support for my ex. It was just not possible financial support for my ex-husband. So that decision, I was just following my guts and saying, okay, this needs to happen, even if I don't see how I can support myself right now. And I knew that I was good at what I was doing, and I knew that there were other people making money and a good amount of money. And you know how it is in Santa Barbara. You need I needed at least $5,000 to just survive without even having a car. And so in my first month that I basically was on my own, I just put it all on the line. And because I was still recovering, I really only had energy to work on my business for 5 hours a week. The other time that I didn't have with the kids, I really needed to just relax and take care of myself. And so because of the time constraint, I really needed to charge, I needed to charge a certain amount because, you can do the math. If you work 5 hours a week at $10 an hour, it's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
So I basically, my life circumstances forced me to just sell a $2,500 package. The best I can,
You painted yourself into a corner, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You're kind of painted into a corner with no other solution. It reminds me of a story, if I can. I want to hear the rest of this, but for other people, when they talk about, and I can't remember the explorer's name, but it's a famous story where I think the Spaniards get off the ships, right? And then the captain goes, burn the boats.
Yeah.
And, you had to burn the boats, so to speak, or you already.
My boat was burned.
They were burned in front of you, and you had no other option. That's okay. Go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I did know about spiritual loss, and I did know about energy but I didn't have proof, I knew it worked for other people. And so, but I was very disciplined with my energy management and just really staying in faith. And, when doubts came in, I would just say, no, this has to work. I'm not going to go back to Germany. I love my family, but I don't like it there. It's too cold. I can't be who I am, really. And I'm also not going to be homeless. That's not an option. So, And so then I sold my first $2,500 package. And then within 3 years, sold almost $250,000 on my services. So something shifted.
Yeah, you could say that. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So someone listening to this right now and hearing your story, and knowing that you got the book, and, we'll talk about some of the other things that you do, the retreats and people you work with, but and somebody listening to your story right now that kind of feels, I'm trying to do it. I'm putting in my time, my side hustle, so to speak. But I just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. What would you say to them?
Yeah. So this sounds maybe a little, I look at everything through energy and energetic levels. And, it took me a while to learn this, but and probably if you're listening, you've heard this, that people say, oh, everything that you want is already here. What does it actually mean? So there's different spiritual laws. And one of them is the law of polarity, which says nothing was created half, an up with a down, left with a right, a desire with a fulfillment. So meaning that if you have a desire for something, the fulfillment is also already here. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that there's vibrational levels. And I always describe it as like, just look at your life or your life as a multi-story house. The lower levels are connected to lower vibrational frequency. So let's say, the first one is up to 100, the second one is up to 200, and 600 is really, and this is measurable. So the frequency of peace is at 600. When we get to like 300-400, our life is already much better looking. We're healthy, we're strong, we see opportunities and so forth. And so chances, if you're working hard and if you're not having a reality where you feel like, oh, yeah, this is right, I'm doing all the things I want to do and it's getting better. It's just that you're vibrationally not quite a match to it. And so what I teach and what I've done is putting the focus rather on, what do I need to be doing in terms of sex strategy and so forth, on like, okay, what do I need to be doing to get my energy into a better place? Because when you do that, when you get from, let's say, from 100 to 300, you're a different person. You attract different opportunities. You think differently, because the thoughts that we think are actually not our own thoughts. They're basically our brain is a big magnet or resonance machine, right? And so if you're vibrating at 300, then you're also attracting thoughts at the 300 level, which is thoughts of possibility, thoughts of creativity. When you're at a lower level, you're thinking, oh, I can't do this and nothing is working, and and it's actually not even your own thought. It's just the thoughts that are in alignment or in resonance with that vibrational level. So I always encourage people to really realize that the success comes 99% from understanding what I just shared, and then really learning and learning about tools and making your own energy management the top priority.
Fantastic. Which is so interesting. And thanks for sharing that, because you have people that are teaching opposite ends of the spectrum, right? You have, and I don't want to call people out, but I'm going to use people's names, not to call them out, but to use them as points of reference. You have people like Gary Vaynerchuk, which a lot of people know from The Entrepreneur, which is, you're not hustling hard enough. I'll out hustle you. I'll outwork you. That's how you get successful. And then you have other people, and I'm going to guess that you're in this camp, like a Tim Matthews or somebody that talks about ease and flow. Like, it doesn't have to be hard,
I mean, you can hustle, but you can hustle at a level where you're just pumped up and fired up. And, I do have a lot of energy output when I'm in that state, but it's a different kind of hustling than like pushing and just like, grinding, and it's different. It's a different, there's a difference.
I love it. I'm fascinated by this topic. I found myself in my career, and we've talked before about when I used to live in Santa Barbara, but I found myself in both realms, and I've experienced both and the feeling of both. And I can tell you, one feels a lot better than the other.
Yeah. I mean, especially, I work a lot with women, because for women, it's actually really detriment. Like the work and the kind of like pushing, it's really more masculine mode, right? Which there's nothing wrong with it, because we need it at times. But for women to do that consistently, it will really damage your body, like it did with mine. With the burnout came for a reason. It didn't just happen overnight. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Burning the candle at both ends. And then it's interesting. I've, over the last probably 5 years, I've studied a lot of that polarity, masculine and feminine energy, and learned a lot about it. And it's still a fascinating subject to me.
Yeah, to me too.
Play with
one of my favorites.
Realms. What's that?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, actually.
It's absolutely fascinating. It's interesting. Well, so as you're on this journey and you've gone through what many would call a lot of bumps in the road, so to speak, in your life, and you've turned them all into an amazing experience of business, and to what you share with me offline, relationships that you're just completely thrilled about and love, which I know a lot of people can relate to both sides of these. And hopefully the people listening can see, if you're on one end of the spectrum where you're hitting bumps in the road, here's a perfect example of somebody who's made it out the other side and is just absolutely radiant and glowing. When I say the term author of your own story, what does that mean to you?
To me, it really means, kind of like the aha I had when I had my out-of-body experience, to learn to make decisions based solely on, I have a yes for this, or no, not based on, does this make sense, or what do other people want from me, or just to navigate your life radically based on how you feel and what feels true for you.
Love it. What a great answer. I couldn't agree with you more. And so another question that I get asked a lot, and so do the other people on the team here, is, okay, this all sounds good. And you've already answered part of this, but I want to get a better picture of this for everybody
Mhm.
else. And I was lucky enough you gave me a glimpse. But okay, great. So you're authoring your own story. You're living life on your own terms. Everything's great. And then there's someone listening to this going, okay, but how do you make money? Come on, be real. Like, what is your business like? And can you just explain that? Because I know that's a
Mhm.
big barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah. So for me, I basically, I apply this to business. So I do the things that obviously you have to do marketing, and obviously you have to kind of like learn about selling if you want to sell something. So that's a given. But you can do it in a way that feels good to you, right? So I don't do strategies that are hard for me, that I hate, that drain me, right? So I pay attention. I do the things that I love. I love speaking. I love being with people. So I build a lot. I built my business based on that. But I had, I created my own meetups. For example, I would have a meetup in Santa Barbara. I would have one in Los Angeles. I would have one in San Francisco, and I would do one a month. And oftentimes I only had like 5 or 10 people. But one of my gifts is I'm really good with groups, and I'm really good with creating a bond, and having fun with people. And so when people experience me in person, it's a great experience, and they normally do want more of what I have to offer. So,
Awesome.
and that's a good way for me. And I love to travel, and it doesn't take a lot of time, right? I still don't work more than 20 hours a week, probably. And then,
I know
and
some
then
people are cringing right now. Like, really?
yeah, I
How
mean,
awesome.
I do a lot of other things. I produced a GMO documentary with my husband and his cousins, and I have kids, and I like to dance, and so I do a lot of other things too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so you have the book, you're doing retreats, um, you've done the meetups. That's how you got there. What else are you up to?
I do a lot of online speaking, so podcast interviews,
Yep.
do my own webinars, guest webinar appearances. Um, I do network, but I network online mostly. So Facebook has been very good to me, not in terms of Facebook ads. I'm still working on, after spending gazillions of money, I'm still working on that part. But um,
I can help you with
I'm
that later.
um, I'm good at like just connecting with people and forming relationships, and then coming from a place where if I reach out to someone, I want them to benefit from the relationships. Like, look what I can do for them, or if they're yeah, just coming from that kind of space.
I do know. We talked about it. You and I share that in common. It's leaving the world a better place by adding value first and
Yeah.
leaving somebody better off than when you met
And
them.
I mean, I've stepped on, I have made mistakes and stepped on people's toes, and people were like, why are you reaching out to me? Like, I don't know you, you stranger. So, for example, to just show you how this works. So sometimes I feel just inspired to scroll on Facebook. And then because I'm an intuitive, for me, what works is looking at people's pictures, and sometimes it will just kind of like light up, and I will feel like connection to the person. But they don't know me, I don't really know them, so I will just literally reach out and say, hey, I was just scrolling Facebook, and I have this practice where I look on Facebook and just let spirit guide me. And today you popped up, so I don't know if there's anything I can help you with, but I just wanted to reach out.
Awesome. And you get a positive response most of the time?
Well,
Not all the time,
not all
but
the time. Oftentimes I don't get any response, and then sometimes people are like, oh my God, you're an angel, I was just praying. Sometimes I will say, maybe I'm the angel that you're praying for right now. So
I love it. I love
yeah,
it because you're stepping into your fear, you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? You're taking
yeah,
a risk of rejection,
yeah. And I
which
mean,
is
here's a really good tip. So for me, I had so much coming from Germany. I have such programming around like not standing out, and just being in the background and not stepping on people's toes and so forth. What's really helped me is like I know 100% that I'm here to help people. And at some point it clicked that I can't help people unless they somehow get closer into my circle. So for me, I've reframed it so that the marketing and the selling is all in service to them. I'm all doing it for them.
love it. I
Obviously
absolutely.
I'm making money with it too, but in the end, like if somebody works with me, I know that they have a life-changing transformation, so, and that cannot happen unless they talk to me or start paying me and working with me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple things that come up for me in that conversation. And one of them is a quote by Brian Tracy, I think it is. And he says, you can get what you want if you focus on helping getting enough people what they want. And I
mm-hmm.
think that's so undervalued in today's society and culture. It's such, I'm very present on all social media channels. and I get probably 100 messages a day, and many of them are people trying to pitch me right away. No relationship established and not trying to add value. And I think that's such a missed opportunity where someone like yourself who's going out there and adding value right away and looking to do that, just, whether energy or whatever, that vibrational tone is so different. You can just tell it right away when you talk to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I remember being in Santa Barbara, hanging up flyers and wishing nobody's going to see me. And then like just feeling like my future clients and thinking, I'm just going to do it for you so you can find me,
Yeah.
and this is the other benefit that I have for people, who are intuitive. So through the family constellations, you can actually read energy. So what I was saying about the house before, the life that you want, or all the clients, the opportunities, the relationships, if you don't have them right now, that means you're now on level 1, 2, or 3, and the stuff that you want is on level 4, 5, 6. Right, so the stuff is already here; it's in existence. It's just you're not in the reality. It might be in just not in the right timing, or literally in a different location. But with the family constellations, you can read that stuff. So for me, I can actually read who the clients at the 6th level are for people and give them the messaging, for example. I can know for people who their partner is at the 6th level and give them a description and connect them energetically. So there's tools that I have at my disposal that also help with this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And doing what you love, right?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obvious to me.
For me, I can't at this point, I cannot force myself to do anything anymore. It doesn't. My inner child, or my because I got so sick, it's just there's no tolerance for doing things that feel like I'm forcing myself, or like struggle.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's the way I try to live my life as well. Mine's more of a practice than a destination personally, but something I'm definitely working on. It's something we commonly hear from people reaching out is, they're struggling with something, or what's the struggle going through, and not letting go of that attachment to the struggle itself and the story that I have to struggle to make it to the next level, so to speak.
Yeah.
For you on a personal level, we often talk about the 5 to thrive. That's something we talk about. And that's your mind, body, soul, relationships, and business. So it's 5 categories. And we go on, we dive a little bit deeper, typically. But share some insights so people can get to know who you are a little bit more. What goals do you currently have, or aspirations in any of those 5 areas?
Well, I always work on getting my physical body into the, best place I can. And actually, part of what I'm learning is actually that the I always thought, okay, your energy and your mind is really important, but what I'm learning is that your body is actually an even bigger part in you getting yourself into a high vibrational space, because your body, just by its mass and the cells that your body have, they carry vibration. And so imagine that your body is clogged up with like low vibrational stuff. Obviously you vibrate at a lower level. So I am actually today on day 26 of a juice fast.
Good for you.
2 more days. So that's my goal right now, to complete it. And it was intense.
Yeah, I bet.
Not mentally, it was intense also, but also physically. And, I've been living really healthy. I mean, I do juice classes, and
yep.
I've been on this journey for a while, and there's so much stuff that's still coming out of my body that was mind-boggling. So that's something I'm working on. In my relationships, once a month we get into a big fight for some reason. It always seems to be the same nonsense. It's really not about anything other than being afraid that you're with the wrong person, or that you're not who you are, or just not feeling safe.
Yeah.
With each other. And so I'm ready to let that go, because it's getting old. It's an energy drain. And what were the other? Oh, in my business, one of my bigger goals is to get on Oprah eventually. But obviously that's
Oprah, if you're watching or listening, Carolin's ready for you.
I'm available. And I want to touch 1 million people's lives. So that's
it's a great goal to have. When you and I share that goal, and that's why I do this podcast and the show, so we can get out there and get people like you out into the world. I love that.
And then what were your other 2?
Mind and soul were the other 2.
Well, for my mind, good question. Because I just did this fast, what became really apparent is that my mind, you know, it just wanted to be done. It wasn't even wanting to eat or wanting to feel. It just wanted to be there. It just wanted to be at day 28. And so that was very revealing to me, because I basically just didn't even care about what was going on in the 28 days. I just wanted to get there. And so obviously when you're in that mindset, you miss out on living life.
Yeah.
So and for me, and for any other, entrepreneur, I think you can relate how, it's very easy to be very achievement focused, and only when you achieve to be happy. And at this point in my life, even when I achieve stuff, it's not the thing anymore. So I've
Yeah.
been working on really transforming and getting to a place where I can just enjoy being for no reason.
Love it.
And that seems to be one of the hardest things to do, honestly.
Yeah. It's a
So,
common thing for a lot of people.
yeah.
And kudos to you, because I find when working with people, especially the people that I work with are all business owners, is they have a hard time being with themselves. They've never really spent time being. It's always work, and it's always after work. You got this, you got that, the kids, the radio. They're in line, they're on their phone, and so you get them to be with themselves, and it's a scary proposition for many of them.
Yeah. And you have to deal with your emotions and
Can't hide. You hope you like yourself, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And not your mask. So
Yeah.
awesome.
And
Absolutely.
then for my soul, I mean, everything that I do, I think I'm part of what I teach and what I do is all about just nourishing my soul and living for my soul and living for my purpose. And um, I love, being in nature. I love dancing. I love being with my family. I love traveling. I love eating healthy.
Yeah.
I do love
Two more
eating. I
days.
will.
2 more
I
days.
will love eating watermelon on Friday. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Well, you're doing all of those things except for eating right now, which is coming around the corner. So how awesome is that you're filling your soul and you're filling your own cup? And so often just people just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And life is too short. I mean, my belief is that we all came here to have the most pleasure-filled life possible in all areas, right? What else? Why would it make sense that God would have created us? Wouldn't make sense that He would have created us to be miserable. So,
Well, and that's a great question, because I'm sure we didn't touch on that, but when we talk about your business, you talk a lot about pleasure, and a lot of people think, okay, that's just sex.
yeah.
And you're like, no, 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 it's not just,
Sex
it
is like,
is,
yeah,
but
it's like compared to everything, it's a part. And if that's not working, it sucks, obviously.
yep.
You want to get it to a place where you feel good about it and free, and where it's, nourishing you. But there's so much more pleasure to be. Also, we've been sold that different products or different food items, that's where the pleasure is coming from. So we've been like really sold on this concept of dependency pleasures that um, is not real, because ultimately there's so much more pleasure available to us when when we're free, right, and doing our purpose and being
Yeah.
healthy. And just when you're really healthy, your body feels amazing. It's just like, oh my god, you know it, there's no better feeling.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely.
And it costs nothing.
That's the amazing thing about it, right? And we have one body we run around with, yet very few people know how it works.
Yeah.
And you can program your TV, you can do all these other things, your car, which is complex, a computer, but very few people take any time, let alone a long time, to understand how the human body works.
Yeah, and I
That's
mean,
always
I'm a naturopathic doctor. I've been in this field, for 20 years now, and I'm still learning stuff now where I thought I knew everything. I'm like, how could I not have known this?
Well, that's the point of being an expert. The way I define being an expert is realizing you don't. It's when you passed the knowing everything stage, the teenage stage,
Oh, I
right?
know. Like the more I get successful, and the more I'm on this path, I'm like, I don't even, like 2 years ago when I started making money, I'm like, I know how to do this now. I know how to manifest. Now at this point, I'm like, I have no idea how I'm manifesting. It's just all happening. I don't know anything anymore. I just know, I just know that I need to keep myself in a good state. That's that I know.
Yeah, exactly. I was having a conversation with a client of mine who happens to be a coach. He's really well known, and I was talking to him about his business, and that's where we're focusing on at the moment. And he was saying, Doug, sometimes I feel like I'm wearing a mask. I'm being an imposter because I realize how much I don't know. And he was going through, he's going through a dip, and we all go through that. And I
Yeah.
was like, look, the thing is, you can help people. You'll never know it all, right? You can't. And that's one of the wonders or pleasures in my mind about life. That's why I love learning, is there's always more to learn. And it's such a valuable tool for people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love learning too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we all do. Yeah. You can't be an entrepreneur, I think, and not really love learning, because there's so much coming at you,
Yeah.
and marketing, everything you're doing.
Yeah.
So
And
for
I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
and it's super important to have community. I mean, without community, it's very hard. If you're just out there on your own, it's very isolating and hard. So
That's a good question, because I hear that a lot too, is that feeling of being on an island, right?
yeah.
And if you don't have a mentor, a coach, or family members, or somebody around you doing something similar, because I'm sure a lot of people you run into, especially with other parents of kids, are like, what do? You work 20 hours, you don't go to work, and you're making money. Like, what's really going on here? Like, they don't get it. So how have you found community?
Online a lot through Facebook also, and I've been in masterminds. I do seek community. I do seek through my mentors, and I also try to create it myself. That has been a little more difficult. And trying to think then to the dancing. Dancing always there's community
There you go.
attached, and you can travel and find people with similar interests. So that's been good. But I don't have a huge community. I have a few key people that I know I can rely on. And I am actually, one of my personal goals is really to expand that and connect with more like-minded people, like for real, not just, oh, I know you from Facebook kind of.
Yeah. Well, for real, like, even if you have to, the thing I always talk to people about, and tell me if you agree, is another thing you hear is, no community, or I can't find people who are growing like me in my community. And you're like, there's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can have video chats like the mastermind groups. I run a couple. I'm sure you've been in a bunch. I've been in a bunch where you can actually have video conversations and eventually meet up when you can.
Yeah.
I think that barrier to entry to find like-minded people and find community is such a made-up barrier for a lot of people, that they use that as an excuse not to progress or step into, a zone of being uncomfortable. I mean, look, you're going out, not randomly, but you're going out and energetically picking people you've never met before. And I'm guessing, and tell me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing you've formed some good friendships doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've had some, in South Africa, I have a really good friend who, actually, she picked me up. That was a random pickup from her, but I had posted a Rumi quote, and she said, oh, no, she had posted a Rumi quote, and I said, hey, that's my daughter's middle name. So I actually picked her. So we picked each other up online, and we have had a really good friendship, but she's from South Africa, and, other people like that. Yeah.
Awesome. So cool.
Yeah. All over the world. That's the benefit of having an online business. Locally, it's a little different, but...
Well, yeah, but it's still great, and you can always meet, and there's just so many different possibilities that come to you. Yeah. You're not restricted by, Santa Barbara's a beautiful town, absolutely, and it had some devastation recently. You're not restricted within the community or the boundaries that you're in.
Yeah. And for me, just, for the most part, I've always had like this one person, and we would connect daily and just be accountability partners, and that's worked for me really well. It's just have that one person where you're on this thing together, like you're training for the Olympics together, and you're just cheering for each other, and just quick check-ins every day. Are you still alive? Yes, this is what I'm doing. Awesome.
I love that analogy, training for the Olympics. That's awesome.
That's what it is,
like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. I talked to some expert the other day. She's an influencer expert, and she said, getting to Oprah is climbing Mount Everest. You got to train every day. You got to put in the groundwork. You just,
You got to do it, right? At the end of the day, but it's, I would counter that argument a little bit, but not the right show to get into some of that information. But going back to you and some of the wisdom that you can pass on to someone listening to this, and I'm going to ask you a question, which could be a hard question, the way that I look at it, only because I'm putting you on the spot. But for somebody looking at this, and I keep going through this because in my coaching experience, whether it be, fitness or personal development or business coaching or whatever I've done, there's always seems to be a gap, right? A barrier that somebody has, a struggle, a story, whatever, that stops them from making their dreams a reality. And so for you, what would you say the two greatest skills somebody could listening to this could take away that can help them make their go from where they are today to where they want to be?
So that the first skill is really learning what your true yes and no feels like. Right? It's a skill because most of us are not trained to listen to our intuition. Most of us are very much in our head and very, we're tormented by our fears and so forth. So learning to get a really good connection to your intuition and that voice and it is in your body that where okay, this is a yes and this is a no. That is a skill and you can learn it. And then obviously
great skill, by the way.
And then obviously you have to follow through. Right?
Yep.
And then let me just think. I don't know if you would call this a skill, but really making your self-care and your energy management a top priority. Like schedule, I live by my schedule from 10 to 2. And so between 10 and 2, I usually have clients and I do stuff. Sometimes I work a little later, but usually that's my general time where I am at my desk and I look at my schedule and I know I have to be there and I have work. And then before and after, it's my free time and oftentimes in the morning before 10, that's all after the kids go out of the house. That's my time where I do yoga or meditate. I love to use essential oils. I connect, to source. I go out in nature, I go to the ocean, do those things. And it's, I live by my schedule in that sense. So I don't know if that's a skill, but.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, in one sense, there's discipline to doing that. Second sense, I go back to what I call filling your own cup. You're scheduling. And I always tell people, show me your schedule. I'll show you your priorities. I do that with bank account too, but it's the truth. If you say relationships are important to you and you've scheduled no time for relationships, there's a problem.
And then again, with the schedule, you have to stick to it, right? But so the way I look at it is like the schedule is a masculine structure that can help you, support you. So for example, you can, while you're working on allowing yourself to work with your schedule, you're actually working on strengthening your feminine and masculine, because if you're actually allowing your schedule to support you, guess what? You're also allowing men to support you, like if you're a woman. So for some people that come to me, I work on the feminine and masculine through their business stuff. So others, we do it, energetically, but it makes it more fun and it makes it more, obviously having great relationships is something we all want. So if you're just sticking to your schedule, it could help you have a better relationship with the opposite sex, right? And it's more enticing too.
Oh yeah. It's much more enticing. I always say within the schedule, there's freedom, right? And people think that I'm going to be so constrained to the schedule. And that's not true, because if you're scheduling out what you want to do and your desires, that gives you freedom. It gives you life. It gets you, the pleasure, the desire that you want to have and the outcome you want.
Yeah. And I mean, in order to be creative and in order to be like plugged into the flow, you need to have spaciousness. You can't just be working, 24/7.
Yeah, no, I've been there. I think, I've done it starting too many companies and grinding it out in my early 20s as a young entrepreneur. And I burnt out quickly doing stuff like that. It just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So tell everybody, and I want to know this too, this is kind of almost more for me, but what are you working on right now? What are you most excited about?
I'm very excited about getting a book deal for my Pleasure IQ book, which is, so when I had my wake up moment on the couch in the out of body experience, I basically realized that we all need to have a new kind of intelligence, which is pleasure intelligence. And we need to develop a pleasure IQ. And the definition of pleasure IQ is one's level of ability to allow pleasure in all areas of your life, or one's life. And so I'm very excited, obviously, about that message. And I want to do a TED Talk, and I want to do, I'm doing retreats around that, and getting a book deal. And just I want to be an inspiration for people to stop suffering and starting to allow themselves to be who they are and create a life that feels good in all areas.
I love it. Well, I can tell you what, you can count me as at least one person in your 1 million people that you've influenced and made better. I'm all in, and I'm going to pick up the book. And for everybody listening, like the author of Your Own Story concept that I came up with years ago was really about helping each other, really building the world a better place. So if anybody here is listening that has a connection, reach out and let Carolin know what's going on. All right. Last and final question. You've been so gracious with your time, and I appreciate that. If somebody's coming here, what resource, obviously Pleasure IQ, get the book and reach out to you, but what other resource can you recommend and leave somebody with one thing that they should take away?
Yeah. So, I've been talking about working with your energy and blah, 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 blah. How do you actually do that? Right? Like, how do you work with your energy? And the training and the work that I've done, I actually do help people, release really deep trauma. We've been talking about the lighter stuff, but oftentimes the reason why we are not at a higher vibrational level is because we do have trauma. And it doesn't have to be, it could be something really traumatic, and it could also be just that, you lost somebody really early on, or your parents weren't home when, they had to go to work, and you suffered from that. And then also we inherit ancestral trauma. So a great resource to help with that is family constellations.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it saved my life, and it's you usually it's an hour session, and you can resolve lifetime worth of stuckness and you know what I mean.
Well, tell me more about it, because I don't think I fully understand what it is.
Yeah, it's very popular in Europe. It's not so popular here. It's getting more popular. It's a modality basically where I'm just going to describe you my first experience, because I think that's the easiest way to do it. So I went to a weekend workshop where I didn't know anybody, and there were like 16 people, and they all had issues. Some of them had cancer, others were getting divorced, others didn't know what to do with their lives and so forth, and me with the eating disorders. And when it was my time, and we were all sitting in a big round circle. And so when it was my time, the people that facilitated it asked me to pick people from the audience to represent for, in my case, it was for family members and the eating disorders. So I asked them if they would be willing to represent, and they said yes. And then I asked them to stand up, and then I literally took them and placed them in the room in different places. That's why it's called constellations, because you literally create a constellation out of these people.
Huh. Okay.
And then the magic starts to happen, which is that these people who know nothing, who don't know anything about you other than the issue, all of a sudden they know everything that they need to know in order for the facilitators to be able to resolve your issue. So it's a very investigative process. The facilitators will ask these people how they're feeling, what's really going on. And I mean, it's mind-boggling. The best explanation, and I've been doing this for 20 years, it's just there is a field that has all the information, and we ourselves are too blocked to access it. So when somebody else does it, the other person doesn't have the blind spot, they can. And then obviously need somebody to know who knows how to facilitate to do that. But, I've had cases where somebody had suffered from asthma, not knowing why. And then we did a constellation, and it turned out that his great aunt had been buried alive, and nobody knew.
Whoa.
And then the constellation showed it, and then she could be acknowledged. And then the whole system started to be peaceful, and then the asthma was gone.
Wow. That's mind-boggling.
Stuff that and it's not always something this extreme, but it's always something where you think like, oh, I wouldn't have thought that was connected.
That's amazing. I'm in. So
yeah. Awesome.
Either a retreat or next time I'm in town, I'm in.
Awesome. Yeah.
We'll find it out. Well, again, Carolin, I know you have your family, and I know we're past the typical work time. So thank you on behalf of myself and everybody else listening to this for being so gracious with your time and your expertise. I'm going to ask the last question. I'm going to put all of your social media and website. Who should be reaching out to you if they want to connect and know more about you?
Anybody who really feels like you're ready for the next level, and you've been working hard and you've tried all kinds of stuff, and what I've been sharing is resonating with you. Right, whether you're building a business, or you're working on your career, or you're just wanting to have a better relationship, you just want, that there's better for you, and you're tired of feeling like you're banging your head against the wall, right? Because there is a better way. And then I also wanted to share, so on my website, my brand is Women in the Flow, but I do also work with men, but mostly women. If you look for this kind of work, right? Yep. It's changing though. So my website is Women in the Flow, and on there I have an exercise that will teach you how to know your true yes and no. And then another tool that will, you can't always have a constellation. You don't have family constellations every day. So there's a tool on there that will help you work with your own energy and transform the negative energy into positive energy, on a daily level. So those two tools, and a Pleasure IQ quiz, you can see how high your Pleasure IQ is. Those three things are on the website. And I have a free Facebook group that you can also go to from the website. So,
wow, lots of offerings. I mean, you're putting a lot out there in the world. I love it.
Yeah, I do daily Facebook Lives with energy work, and in that group, and tips and stuff.
And you had mentioned a gift. And so I want to bring it up before I forget, because I told you at the beginning before I hit record, I have a habit of forgetting things. So tell me about that.
Those are the gift. The gift is the yes and the knowing your true yes, and then
Awesome.
the energy transformation and the Pleasure IQ quiz. They're all on the website.
This is so perfect. And I didn't, when we talked about you being on the show and just you and I were talking about, we were talking pre-show, and I actually have a conversation with somebody just 2 days ago about how do I find my hell yes and my hell no and the difference between those. Yeah. So now I have a place to send them. This is great. Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for being here. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Are you a digital nomad or someone looking to create the digital nomad lifestyle? Go to authorofyourownstory.com/soul-gift to get our free digital nomad cheat sheet, where we give you the tools you need to set yourself up for optimal digital nomad success. And don't forget to be the author of your own story.